Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Group Chat. We have our good friend Jad back in the building. Jad, for the listeners, we have a lot of new listeners because I don't know if you heard, and this is actually right up your alley. We're famous on TikTok now.
Wow.
So things have changed, and we have a whole new fan base that might not have been here when you came on last time. So can you remind us what it is exactly you do? You're at WME. You're a super agent. What do you do? The world of digital with Hollywood tell us.
Happy to remind you, and congrats on the newfound fame on TikTok.
Thank you so much.
It's a very big deal.
Too famous.
We have a couple of pitches for you at the end of the show.
Attention.
Yeah.
Thank you. So
Shout out
to
Ni hao.
That's right. There's one shout out.
Yeah.
So I run the digital media group at WME, which encapsulates everything from podcasting to gaming to emerging platforms, influencers, and then as a result of who we represent, we tend to do increasingly a lot of traditional work in film and TV and music. So I tend to dance a little bit between the traditional Hollywood world and kind of the digital media Hollywood world and try to bridge those and really grow all of our clients' businesses. So we end up dabbling in a lot of things and doing a lot of business development as a result with those type of clients.
So if I'm like a podcaster, an actor, a blah, 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 you're the dream maker.
I can help you.
Okay, I like that. Okay, we have some pitches for you at the end of the episode.
Can't wait. We got one really, really good one from
Dee's pitching. Dee literally used the episode to pitch his fucking
my movie idea.
He was just waiting the whole time.
Yeah.
In the meantime, though, before we get to the pitches, we're going to talk about we talked a little bit about Hello Sunshine, Reese Witherspoon's big sale that she did. And, it sounds like maybe we missed a few details.
Just a couple.
$400 or
$500 million worth.
Whatever. No big deal. So you're gonna correct us on that, and then you're gonna tell us what else is going on in the world of production companies, sports. We're gonna talk about the Paul brothers. You really gave us the full download on everything going on in the world of media at the moment.
Did my best. Let's get it, boys.
We appreciate it, man. Let's get it. We got that, and then of course we're gonna end with a little bit of scary talk. We have a news topic we got to go over before we wrap it up.
Absolutely.
That's it. Let's do it. Welcome to Group Chat.
Cash.
Ladies and gentlemen, Group Chat.
Cash.
It's $1 trillion. Hot.
All right, we're back. We got our friend Jad back again. I think probably what happened is we probably misquoted some facts. We got a call from Jad and said like, yo, I'll be there on Sunday.
Hello Sunshine is the Google of films.
Back.
Yeah.
I'm back, boys.
Yeah, we couldn't have been more wrong.
We had to get corrected.
So I got a funny story about Hello Sunshine. Obviously, I had no idea what it was, what movies are involved with, nothing. Obviously, Jad texts us, like, you guys didn't quite understand what's going on. Cool. He said he'll come on the podcast to discuss.
Yep.
I'm at our friend Rob Go's house.
Yep.
He had a few people over. I'm standing next to a guy. He's an actor. His name's Taylor. Really nice guy. And finally, I'm like, oh, what are you working on? He's like, oh, I just did a Reese Witherspoon movie.
This is like literally right in your face.
I was like, is this Hello Sunshine? And he goes, yes. I was like, fuck.
I noticed you're wearing a sunshine hat. Is that related?
Yeah, now I'm all in.
Got it.
But I never heard of it. Yeah. And it got valued at $900 million. And now, Jad, why is it worth so much?
I think you guys actually got a bunch of it right, but a few bits of it wrong.
Yeah, we tend to go a little hard on the like, what even is this?
Yeah,
Reese even know what she's doing.
That's our role. We want to be 60% right.
Yeah,
I think. By the way, I think
40%
your reaction is kind of well warranted. These numbers are pretty large.
Okay.
I think what was not really publicized is that the company had a couple investors right out the gate, from the Jobs Foundation all the way to AT&T, who owned a large chunk of that company. Yeah. And so that was a big piece of it.
From day one.
From very early days.
Yeah.
From like day 10, let's say, company's only been around for 5 years. I think since the first year they were involved.
Yeah.
So that's part of it. And then the other part is that there's a large earnout. So that there's, what a lot of times these acquisitions are based on is not just what the company's worth and the catalog is worth and what they own in that moment, but what's going to happen over the next 5 years. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a big part of what was being bet on in this acquisition. I think part of it also involved the fact that it's a very multi-dimensional company, and they kind of, there's a bit of pumping up the narrative as to what it is. But what really is interesting about these modern media companies that are built right, and if you think about the other ones that are being referenced from Spring Hill to, I'm trying to remember the other one, Gwyneth Paltrow's company, they often have a brand-facing element to their business, which isn't TV production or film production. And they often have a curation ability, and they are often monetizing content digitally in some way. And so they have kind of a couple of those pieces in that Hello Sunshine acquisition. So I think that there's just a lot of kind of elements that go into it. Part of it is the talent is now being viewed. An Oscar-winning talent like Reese Witherspoon can get the Kim Kardashian business treatment if you build an ecosystem around her. And one is facing brands and book publishers and the book of the month, the book club. And one is we're going to make content for the next 5 years for Apple at a minimum of X budget per episode. And so you have some guaranteed revenue there. And then another piece of it is her company's ability to market to her audience. And so now you have all these different elements of the company. That's what I think is being bet on over a 5, 6, 7, 8 year horizon.
It sounds a lot better than the way we put it.
No,
Like,
but it's
what?
Reese Baggerspoon.
Morning show? That's it?
No, but it's interesting because I heard Matt Damon on the Bill Simmons pod talking about how A-list stars can't make money the way they used to.
Do you agree with that, by the way?
I do. I think that like the number of people making big money purely off Hollywood has diminished. And so now they have an ability to make money in a lot of Hollywood adjacent ways.
Got it.
And those are things that used to be associated, I think, with, a Kardashian, an athlete, a rapper, et cetera. But now you're seeing all these different actor talents using the ability to sell direct to consumer, the ability to, a Kevin Hart making a YouTube channel or Will Smith doing it, and so on and so forth.
But I think that's the way they have to transition to do the Reese model, where like you're the A-list star, you know how to produce content, versus like, hey, I just show up at Independence Day and it's a $2 billion movie.
I mean, think about it. You guys are actually really close to someone that I work with very closely that has been building a company incredibly intelligently for a while, which is Nas and Mass Appeal. And, Nas has always made a lot of very smart business decisions. I think he always has a lot of people around him that also do the same thing. And if you look at Mass Appeal, that was a 2-part kind of company back in the day. They owned a company called Decon, which was a creative agency that did a lot of brand work. And then there was the production company. And Mass Appeal itself was a publisher before that as a magazine. And so Peter Bittenbender and Sasha Jenkins go in there with Nas and they rebrand it. And now all of a sudden, Decon is rebranded as Mass Appeal and does brand work. They have a label that is very well-to-do and has a Sony partnership. They have TV and film production, which crushes. But if you look at it, they now have a kind of a 3-sided business that's really interesting. And I would be shocked if those guys didn't have some sort of a big deal happen over the next couple of years.
Given we know Mass Appeal and we know Peter and Nas and Anthony, everyone in that camp very well. I mean, just thinking about the projects they've already put out and looking at just the body of work and the audience they target, it feels like it could get a Hello Sunshine.
That's I think that's the hope. Another bag for Nas.
Yeah.
Is that a big thing that's happened? Like, is this the Hello Sunshine is just one of many? This is like an interesting new place where a lot of money is going into, or it's still sort of a few one-offs?
I think there's going to be more of them. I think we're sensing more of them happen. The celebrity production company is nothing new. It's been around forever.
Yeah.
I think what's new is that they're way more consumer facing and they're way more active in a lot of areas.
Yeah.
So it's not just Plan B, which is Brad Pitt's company, making the occasional super high-end, super premium film.
Yeah.
They're now...
I saw Travis Scott with A24.
Yes.
Which is hot. Because
That's his production company?
That's his name? A24?
Oh, no,
No.
A24. You mean he worked with A24?
Yeah, he
A24
did it-
I thought you said
is it-
A24. I was
it's
like, he has a production company?
Yeah, I'm sure he does now. I mean,
He's building one. I mean, he's getting production company credits, and that's
Yeah.
like the first thing you do to start building a real production company.
Yeah.
But I think, to answer your question, like the companies have evolved, and I think Kevin Hart's got a great example of one where they do a lot of digital work, which then leads to doing creative agency work because you have a big audience. It's consuming your content all the time.
Yeah.
So you can do third-party brand work to then making film and TV. I think Zac Efron, someone we just signed, has a really smartly built kind of ecosystem in that regard too, where he's got this really active digital presence that feeds what he's doing otherwise. And what we're going to do is help him connect all those things and make them really valuable. But like the celebrity production company's been around forever. I just think now they're doing much more interesting business.
Yeah.
And I think if you read much about what was reported, around Hello Sunshine is, the dig against them was that they're in the service business. They're in the for-hire service business of making shows that are owned by other people. Yeah. There's ways to own a lot of different content. There's easier ways to own digital content. There's ways to create catalogs. There's buyers that only license stuff. But then there's also all the stuff that they're doing, like launching brands and doing joint ventures with other people that are really monetizable that then feed into these companies and they're becoming worth more. So I think someone's going to roll up fucking 20 of these and have this, multi-dimensional kind of company, this diversified company with different categories covered.
So is it almost like if you're you're getting into Hollywood and you're old, 20 years ago you wanted to be, let's say Brad Pitt or what The Rock is now. I mean, The Rock's way more than that now, but I'm saying superstar, just actor. You show up, you're a star, you get $20 million a film, whatever. The new way that everyone should be thinking is this, are these going to be the next lane of really, really rich Hollywood celebrities?
I think so. I think there's a very limited number of those actors that you're talking about, and the number of movies that they're doing a year has dropped a little bit.
Yeah.
So then everyone else, and the agencies also, you got to keep in mind the agencies and the representatives are also thinking about how do you grow these people's businesses.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is these other adjacent areas. So, so talent, whether they're music stars or digital influencers or rappers or actors, if they're entrepreneurial and they're into this, they have a much bigger ability to make large deals. And there's countless examples. You guys talk about them all the time.
So tell me why I'm wrong. Because
Dee's
I'm sure Dee's literally
been doing this since he was 4 or whatever. Yeah.
Tell me why I'm wrong where I think the streaming platforms, Netflix, Disney, you name them, are arbing talent, your representation of talent. And I feel like Netflix is arbing all the A-listers with these like big bags up front. And they're making so much more on the back end with new subscribers and free cash flow and stock price goes crazy. How do you kind of reconcile that?
You're not wrong. You're right. That is exactly what they're doing. But I think it's the same dichotomy you've always been faced with when you're an artist, which is, do you want the guarantee or do you want to bet on yourself and see what happens if you take the higher risk, lower upfront kind of position and go from there? I mean, what I think the best story that I've ever heard along that is the Sylvester Stallone story, where the dude was living in his car. He wrote Rocky. Someone tried to buy Rocky off of him just outright, said, we want to buy this. Thanks for writing it. See you later. He wanted to star in it. He wanted to own a big piece of it. And he held out, took way less money up front, and the rest is history, right? That was 35 years ago. To this day, same kind of dynamic. If you're we're trying to think of the last giant deal that they did, Shonda Rhimes.
Sure.
If you're Shonda Rhimes, you can stay independent and go sell show by show by show. And the volume at which she sells and the company's size, she's going to sell a lot of shows over the next 5 years. And go do the math. What's that going to be worth? Which ones are you going to license? Which ones are you going to own? Which one will you have back end in? What's the bag worth?
But she did she do Bridgerton?
Yes.
So she lost, right?
So that might have been worth that whole deal by itself. If she would have auctioned that off and HBO and HBO Max and Peacock and every new fucking streamer in town was like, I need that show with Shonda, with all the marketing, with all the built-in, with this, with that, she might have made the equivalent of that deal on that show.
Who would have thought it would be hot?
But if she didn't come up with Bridgerton and she had a bunch of fucking duds, then she would have made the right choice. So everyone's kind of making a little risk. It just depends on which one you want.
Is part of this too because there's just so much content being bought?
Who's watching all this shit?
Who's watching all this
There
shit?
is so much need for more content.
Like, is this like unique to right now, right? Or unique to the last,
it's
handful of
unique
years?
To the last handful of years, but I think that based on the emerging platforms, the roll-ups, the discovery buying, 2 or 3 other big conglomerates, and everyone's trying to be a hub of content that has every vertical represented, from lifestyle to sports to premium to docs to reality to scripted. And so I think the runway is long.
It seems to me, I'm going to make a wild comparison.
And I'm sure we'll get like a bunch of feedback from people that are like, this guy's fucking wrong or off or this or that. But I think the runway is long for the content kind of war.
This is a wild comparison which uses the word war. Tell me if I'm crazy. The same way that, they say war is really good for business, for select people. Anytime there's a war, those people benefit greatly, right? It feels to me like there is a platform war, and the people who are supplying the tanks are the people supplying the content.
Yeah.
And so there's just a need for it right
and
now.
you're an arms
more.
dealer.
I'm facilitating
a lot of
right? Does that apply kind of?
No, completely. And that we wouldn't be the first to use that example. I mean, I think that there's a few people that have decided they want to be arms dealers to the race of content. And there's some people that have decided they want to distribute it and own it.
Yeah.
And even like if you look at Viacom, in many ways, they've decided to sort of be arms dealers because they're selling big shows to other platforms that have this brand awareness and built-in kind of branding, like you saw them do Punk'd with another company. They did it a few years ago. They did it with Quibi for a hot second. But like point being, they were like, we're gonna supply everyone. And same with like you mentioned A24. Those sort of kind of now well-established indie studios, they're gonna fucking crush over the next few years.
So it seems like this actually could be everyone wins. So Netflix gets to issue debt at sub 1% money.
Yeah.
And they get to raise billions of dollars and pay Shonda Rhimes, The Rock, who, I mean, I'm just saying names. I have no idea who they actually have signed. But
I've not seen a rock show on Netflix.
Okay, so name another A-lister.
They didn't do that one.
Yeah.
They did Ryan Murphy. They did Shonda Rhimes. They did Higher Grounds, Obama.
There you go. So they're issuing 1% money in the debt markets and using that, paying all the A-listers, unlimited capital, and they feel happy.
Yeah.
And the stock price goes
Housing
crazy.
price in LA through the roof because of that.
And there's literally like
restaurants are popping.
It feels like everyone
Waiters
wins.
are getting tipped.
Everyone wins.
I saw a hot boat yesterday floating around the back. The name of it was called Back End.
Really?
Genius.
Yeah. In Malibu.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh my God, that's so good. The other interesting thing is do you think? I wish someone would do the math. I wonder if there's more content per hour being produced through all this streaming than the peak of television.
I think so. Even just from one simple metric, which is during the cable universe, during that era, there's limited time slots.
Yeah.
Like you had like 4 hours of really good time slots on certain nights of the week.
Yeah.
You have unlimited real estate when you're Netflix.
Yeah.
Unlimited time slots.
Because you wouldn't even be able to
Doesn't
program all
matter.
this content if you had to, right?
No.
So you don't have the limitation of like fitting into blocks. You don't have the limitation of commercials.
Commercials.
You don't have like when Dee wants to watch 4 fucking hours of TV, they're ready for you and they're gonna recommend the right next hour.
Yeah,
And
the
so
shittiest shows on television.
It's always prime time.
Yeah.
And that's the difference.
And the other
so
thing,
wild.
the other interesting thing is I wonder if you took all the commercial time on television and removed it and then added all the new hours of new content. Like, is that why people are able to consume that much content? Because like in an hour show, is there 20 minutes of commercials?
Yeah, like an hour show, it'd be 44 minutes and 16 minutes commercial.
Yeah, like I wonder if you add up all the, like I'm sure there's some guy that did the math on this and then figured it out. Like, because I tried to watch regular television this morning.
Like cable, what was on
There's
DirecTV.
fucking nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. I ended up watching some Indian dude get interviewed on Bloomberg because I literally could not. ESPN, I don't even know what the fuck they're doing over there.
Yeah.
It
bad.
feels so like archaic now.
Yeah, it's like, what am I waiting for these guys to? And they're not funny. They're not entertaining. It's so slow.
And think about how quickly it happened.
Yeah.
It happened in like 2-3 years.
It feels like going to Macy's and trying to pick out an outfit as opposed to being able to go choose it, or or a grocery store or anything.
Yeah.
It feels like the difference of e-com versus
Analog.
just getting what
But
they're offered.
it's also the type. I think the fact that these streamers came in, the one thing I'll give you is like the type of content being made is also more suitable to the audience today, right? So like, I'll give you an example. Never Have I Ever on Netflix. No fucking way that show would have got made on network television.
Same with the Kate Winslet show. What's that show? Where she's the cop?
I forget the title of that show. I didn't watch that one.
But that would not be on network television.
Take Never Have I Ever.
maybe two networks, and that's the thing.
And why not? They're just too out there.
No, that show is like an Indian family who loses their dad in Sherman Oaks.
They either
like
feel
that's not fucking
too
getting made.
like the equivalent of like an indie foreign film, or they're really, really edgy and they didn't have like advertiser-backed channels that would work with them, or that would relegate them to the 3 premium HBO, Showtime, etc.
Got it.
And then the Paul
Mayor of
McCartney.
Easttown.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's a show.
That's right. No, that unlikely would have gotten made.
Yeah.
Paul McCartney and Rick Rubin on McCartney 321. That shit, I think I'm gonna watch it again. Like it was so fucking good.
Rick Rubin is a visionary, and he had this idea from jump when that opportunity came about. And that's like one of those formats that, because of the number of buyers, I think you were able to like let that thing breathe and be this real kind of deep dive, a study into Paul McCartney that I don't think you would have gotten otherwise. But
no, you never would have gotten that.
But I mean, that one, not to go on a big tangent, that one was also independently financed. It was fully made outside of the system, and then it was sold. It was auctioned off to like the highest bidder.
Wow.
I think if you...
So who financed something like that?
Endeavor Content financed that
Okay.
one. And that's who Rick Rubin has. Shangri-La has a deal with Endeavor Content that will automatically finance certain, projects for him. And so he was able to get that financed and take it out and sell it as a finished product. That on a pitch would have been a harder sell.
Yeah.
Just because it seems so...
Yeah. Like, why would anyone watch
simple.
Paul McCartney talk about every Beatles song?
Yeah.
And it's incredible.
And Rick's about to follow that thing up with some more fire, by the way.
Similar vibe?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I loved it. It was so good.
Think about how lucky we are in that regard.
Yeah.
That we get like even the option to see all of this crazy content. Then you can watch Jake Paul fight a guy. Then you can watch, like, it's just craziness.
Speaking of Jake Paul fighting guys, are you guys launching maybe for your talent fighting league?
So you guys
Because you have UFC.
You own the UFC.
Yeah, you guys got to get in on this fuckery.
Yeah.
We are in on the fuckery.
Okay, good.
We are very in.
That's a good like WME statement. We're in on the fuckery.
And
It's a great press release.
Yeah.
That should be like literally headline
That should be
on
earnings report.
deadline.com
Yeah.
or whatever.
Here's
like,
our plan for the rest of the year.
We've
We're in
been
on the
believers
fuckery.
in this space and these guys, and just like the macro kind of sports now intersecting with digital.
Yeah.
And last time I was on here, we talked a lot about just like the next phase of talent being discovered on TikTok and on platforms like that. And we were kind of talking about new actors and music talent. We didn't talk about athletes. And since then, it hasn't been that long. It's kind of crazy to see what the world of sports is kind of how it's being impacted by digital.
Yeah.
And, I think the clearest example is Jake Paul, Logan Paul, both of whom we rep. I work with both of them. I think they're both incredibly brilliant marketers and know exactly what their audience wants and how to go about kind of working the whole system.
So can you walk me through a conversation with them? Because, we're the outside looking in. We know they're really smart because they figured out like an incredible business.
Yeah.
Do they talk like normal business people, or do they talk like the guys that we see on YouTube?
I mean, these guys are very shrewd business guys.
They're very
And
smart.
They're really smart, and they've been in this business for a long time, and I think people forget it because people got reintroduced them in different ways. They know how to speak to the audience. They know how to market. They know how to get reactions. And then the last thing that I don't think they're credited enough with is they work hard as fuck. And those guys both have been training like animals.
Yeah.
And you can see it in kind of their performance. And
I watched the first episode last night of the Showtime. The thing we love?
Oh yeah.
They released the first
24/7.
episode of Jake Paul.
Oh, they did the one with Woodley?
Yes.
Oh shit.
It's incredible. They're training.
They are training. They're not, you guys talked about this all the time. Hard work. These guys have hard work and smarts, and they're going for it. And I think when you see them thinking about their business and the sport and how they want to kind of be the underdog that overcomes it, it's impressive. And I'm definitely rooting for them. I think that, when we pulled some information on the fight from the last Logan Paul Mayweather fight, Logan Paul had 50 billion impressions.
$50
billion.
bill.
That's the one with the
50.
Mayweathers.
Yes.
There's only like
50 billion.
There's only 8
50
billion
billion.
people, right?
50. Yeah.
There's
That means the whole
7
world
billion.
watched it.
7 billion people in the
It's
world.
just-
They
so
all watched
average
it
was
8 times.
6.5 times
when,
each person.
when you look at like the number
and there's
of
5 billion, I think, smartphones or something like that.
it's
Yeah.
crazy.
Oh my
Like when you
God.
look at like how many people watched the pay-per-view, how many people interacted with the promo, the clips,
Yeah.
the
Got your
social, the all the bullshit
Yeah.
leading up to it, all the way to like afterwards, the clips, his tweets, his Instagram kind of posts, everything in between. It was crazy.
So that's like probably the biggest sporting event ever.
I think you will see some crazy data about how big of a sports star Logan Paul has become in a short period of time. And that changes from the time that we last met to now. The type of brands that are interested in these guys has changed
Like,
dramatically.
A-list brands?
Explain to me how you explain that to corporate America.
Think
Because you,
50 billion
you're literally
impressions.
in the middle between talent
Totally.
and corporate America.
You explain it by pulling that data, which isn't like total bullshit, because we pulled 10 different sources
Right.
of information to cobble this thing together, and we can kind of walk them through it and say, like, if you were to buy earned media for the demographic that you want to hit this many impressions or eyeballs, here's what it would cost you
And they actually understand it.
for sure.
And are people
So
sort of
now
warming
Pepsi-
up?
It's
I'm
taken
saying,
them-
I'm saying
it's
Pepsi,
taken them a really
Nike,
long time.
Gatorade, like
They're not there
the
yet.
biggest brands.
They're not there yet, but they will be there pretty soon. The kind of layer before that is now starting to be like, the layer before that 6 months ago would have been like, no way, are now inquiring, starting to talk to different opportunities.
What's the layer before that? So I just named like pretty big brands.
Gambling site.
I think that-
DraftKings.
everything those guys are pretty like down with risk from the
Yeah.
get-go. So they were already in, but more like big entertainment companies.
Got it.
Big multimedia conglomerates, big, beverage companies.
You know what would be great?
Um,
Hard Mountain Dew. Logan Paul should be the face of
All
Hard
day.
Mountain Dew.
Done. Biggest
Fucking
drink
beat
in
up
the world.
someone and just
After
give him $10
party.
million.
After party in
Yeah.
Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
There you go.
Drama's a natural with that.
Biggest. I mean,
Slurping
you know how much
You
Mountain
grew
Dew
up
I
with
drank?
Mountain Dew.
Oh my gosh, it was a daily. It was my morning routine.
coffee.
Yeah.
Cup of Joe.
Goes
Yeah.
great with a cigarette.
So you're the guy. Oh my gosh, does it ever? You're the guy who. So you are. This is why I love you, Jad. I love your perspective. Is like you're the guy who has the actual meetings with like the Logan Pauls, and then you go have the meetings with the corporate guys and try to sell them and try to truly, like Anand said or Dee said, bridge those two worlds, right?
Yeah, completely. And we have, obviously we have a team that specializes in a number of these areas. So we utilize people's expertise, but that is exactly it. And I think, part of my job is to go out and advocate and get these guys to understand before they would. You guys always make fun of the old retailers. Like they knew e-commerce was coming for fucking ever,
Yeah.
but they didn't do it.
Yeah.
Some of them did. And the ones that did had early adopter benefits. And I think what we're out there doing is trying to get these brands to understand that this is an early adoption thing.
Yeah.
And that in the same way you look at traditional, a Floyd Mayweather 20 years ago, 10
Yeah.
years ago, however, peak kind of moment of those sort of boxers.
Yeah.
I think now this is the era for these guys.
I have to ask you because you obviously
I'm
clear.
biased.
No, you're right. That's the more important part because I have the same frustration when I talk about like different versions of technology. I'm like,
Crypto.
this is so obvious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you shake like corporate executive? Like, shut the fuck up and listen to me.
I think there's been some like forces that happen out in the world that have made it a little easier, which makes them more reliant on these guys, which makes them more reliant on digital creators too in general. But the really big thing that I think is going to shift some of the way people look at it is that you now can't scrape data off of Facebook and YouTube to like reverse market to everyone, which you guys have talked about a lot. So what becomes the next best way to do that? It's people or properties with really well-defined audiences. So you know who has a lot of info on their audience? Jake Paul, Logan Paul, and giant brands. You talk about these podcast deals that have been fucking massive. They're massive because they know who the audience is exactly. And they're listening every week and you know how long they're listening.
Like the smart list.
It's you know what's going on, who you're marketing to. And so I think the brands are becoming more reliant because other doors are closing.
So you're saying there's less resistance when you explain this to them.
Yeah.
Is there part of it that you just have to kind of let the world catch up? Like I think that's probably how Anand felt with crypto.
We've been,
like,
you guys, I didn't get into this last time. We've repped Jake Paul for like 5 years.
yeah.
So we've repped him in different capacities, and it was just about kind of making sure that we were getting to this point that I think we knew was coming, but we didn't know in what form it would take.
Yeah.
And now it's like he's got a lot of the infrastructure ready to do. He's got a brand. He's got a media brand. He's got the right partners. And the other thing I was mentioning before is like the VC world is starting to take notice.
Yeah.
And they're taking notice for, I think, 2 or 3 main reasons. The obvious one is they're taking notice of the Reese Witherspoon type companies because there's a path to consumers, buyers. You can look at the numbers. You can see how that operates like you used to be able to buy a small studio. I think the second thing is VCs are saying, okay, if I have a sunglass brand and I want to put some turbo boosters on this thing, how do I do it? It's usually one of these very strategic partners. Yeah. So VCs are now trying to work directly with a lot of these individuals, whether they're from the traditional world or from this kind of new digital world, because they can launch and throttle sales and awareness for a brand. The third thing that I think is happening that's really not surprising, but it's new as can possibly be, is VCs are starting to say, how can we, because when you make content digitally, you own it. So they're looking at that and saying, how do we own, Addison Rae's catalog of content? Because she's made so much over the years, she's going to continue to make it. So they're now coming and saying, we'll buy out your content rights.
Like your streaming rights, whatever.
We'll buy out your content rights forever for this giant check. And they know
That's
they can monetize it, and they know they can do other things with it.
I like that idea.
So part of it is like, where does that go?
Yeah.
Where does that go if you're a publisher, if you're Vox Media, if you're Mass Appeal, if you're so on and so forth?
No, it's a super important point because I think Silicon Valley 2.0, it's called 1.0, the original .com boom, and then 2.0, 2008 post. They didn't want to pay creators. That's what, you brought up that point in the past podcast. They're like, we don't need the creators.
Yeah.
But 3.0 is very clear that they need to collab.
3.0 is kind of an amalgamation of everything we're talking about. 3.0 is that Zac Efron, Kevin Hart, Will Smith, Reese Witherspoon, they are content creators. They have a digital business. They can launch brands. Mm-hmm. They can make movies. They can make premium documentaries. They could do all of these things. And before, if you were any of the people I just mentioned, you had to stick to your A-list movies. And even if you did a brand deal, it was frowned upon. Now, that's
do whatever you want.
As great entrepreneurialism if it's on brand, if it's authentic, if you do it right, if you don't kind of dilute yourself, if you don't overdo it. Like, you just have to be really fucking smart about your choices.
What's crazy is like, at the end of the day, in media, all that matters is impressions, engagement, right? Like,
audience.
Right, audience, right? So if Reese Witherspoon's company, I can't get over how much this company's worth, or even Spring Hill at $750 million, it's rumored. Yeah. Let's say those two are worth $900 and $750, and say deservedly so. Jake and Logan Paul's company should be worth $10 billion.
I agree.
It's sort of like how we said about, when was the last time we were saying, I think it was about Trump.
Yeah.
We were saying like Trump media should be worth like $3 billion. Like I think that
he pushes an insane number of eyeballs.
Yeah,
no matter what he does.
At the end of the day, it's just about eyeballs and engagement. Like if that's the case, then these people like Jake and Logan Paul. At this point,
who doesn't know who Jake Paul is?
I don't think anyone.
The Taliban.
50 billion? Everyone knows 10 times who they are.
I think by the end of the year, you'll be able to say without any fucking joke that those two are top 15 most recognizable athletes in the whole world.
I wouldn't even say athletes. I would just say personalities.
But let's just say athletes. Let's say athletes.
Even if you put it in athletes, I'd say top 5.
Athletes is even harder.
Let's go. Let's do this.
Ronaldo,
Messi, LeBron, Steph Curry.
That's it. Who knows? I don't know anyone else.
After that,
I would argue if you walked just through each city in the world, Logan Paul gets more recognition than Steph Curry.
100%.
Conor McGregor is
That's
up
what I
there.
think.
Conor McGregor's up there. Yeah.
Conor McGregor definitely.
Neymar.
Neymar.
But Floyd's kind of fading.
Neymar.
Like I think
but he's still famous.
Maybe
I think they
a guy
recognize
like
him, but I don't think they.
Lewis Hamilton, sure.
I don't think anyone recognizes Lewis.
So top 10.
I don't think people recognize Steph Curry overseas.
I agree. I think here would be wild, but I think overseas.
I think Lewis Hamilton is recognized everywhere but in America.
Yeah.
So you have these couple people that are.
Yeah.
So you're telling me Logan Paul walks through Piccadilly Circus in London?
Oh my God!
Shuts the fucking thing down. I thought you were gonna say like
Mayhem.
I thought you were gonna say like Bangalore, like Piccadilly Circus is a shit show for Logan
I'm telling
Paul.
you, he shuts it down in Bangalore. 100%.
I don't know Bangalore, but I think I get a lot of
Okay, listeners in Bangalore. If you live in Bangalore
Tell
and
us.
you saw Jake and Logan Paul,
I bet you'd be even more crazy.
I'll make a
Yes, like,
prediction
who are
right
these
now.
fucking-
plus he's white. It's just gonna look different.
Yeah,
He's
just a
like,
big weird white guy.
I'll make a prediction right now. Q1 of next year, this conversation will sound ridiculous. They will
because
be
it's so obvious.
they will be so fucking obviously known everywhere.
yeah, I think they already are. I don't.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's fascinating to me because
Like
I agree. If Steph Curry wore a hat, he could walk through London.
Yeah.
And no,
And you're choosing London. I mean, London is like
It's a very-
right just about America.
Right.
Like I'm talking like obscure places. I'm talking like who can walk through Barcelona, Spain, and what happens. You know what I mean? I think Logan Paul is a weird. Like people are like, oh my god, the guy who fought Floyd Mayweather.
It's also fighting sports are really international.
Yeah.
All
Everyone
the other
understands.
sports we're talking about are kind of regionalized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I ask you this? Because I feel like you were starting to go to it, but maybe not. Is what about like actual sports?
Oh, so I think
Nobody watches those.
Okay, got it.
Moving on.
Got it.
Look at the numbers.
By the way,
Dead.
so before you even get into that, so preseason football
Yep.
started, right? And I remember I used to watch every preseason football game. For whatever reason, I didn't know. But yesterday, there was a number of games, today, but there's only one highlight of all of the games that's going on.
Is it the guy diving to tackle the guy and
Yes.
missing?
So at SoFi Stadium, the first football game with actual fans, which is Rams and Chargers, which should be illegal. We should never let two LA teams in a stadium together. If you grew up in LA, you know better. These fans are not supposed to assimilate.
Especially with everything going on in LA.
Yeah. They're just, especially like put the Raiders in, like it's nightmare.
Yeah.
Anyways, there's a video. I'm sure everyone by now has seen this video of the most insane fight in a preseason game.
Oh, it was a fight.
it was
Yeah.
a
Oh, I
full,
saw a different
full-blown
highlight.
I
fight.
haven't seen this.
No,
In the stands
oh my
or-
God.
Fight.
The
And it
players.
was still like good seats.
It was good seats
Oh,
down below.
the fans.
Down below, first
but
section.
preseason, so prices allow for fuckery. So two guys are arguing, then it becomes five guys arguing against one guy. One woman in the group of five guys chucks a drink at the guy. He backhands five people down to the ground.
And gets his ass beat.
And then he was doing good. And
Five,
then he was
that's pretty impressive.
sitting
yeah,
a
he
little
literally
higher.
backhanded five guys. And then they just
Damn,
were like,
what?
fuck it.
Interesting choice of
By the way,
attack.
these six people should get representation, is my point. It's like they're more well known today than anyone who took the field. And
I think we fucked up by making Sons and Four Guy a celebrity.
100%.
Everyone in every game is like, oh, I'm that guy.
Yeah.
You know what?
Fuck that.
It's actually like concerning because those were good seats.
yeah.
Those weren't like, hey,
still-
in
and
the
seems like the
rafters.
American consumer is primed for a fight right now.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, man, fighting is just hot.
And I was just like, man, you can't do anything.
Yeah. and
Yeah.
Imagine if the stadium is like, you know how you to be very strict on what you get to bring in?
Yeah.
Everyone gets one weapon.
Just one small hand-to-hand
This
weapon.
seems
Yes.
like a good sequel to The Purge. The sports edition.
Literally. That's what it's
Okay,
turning
honey,
into.
I'm going to
So
the
basically
game.
it's like
Good luck.
I ain't never seen it.
It's airplanes and stadiums. That's all. Like
Yeah, that's
just-
where it goes down.
That's where it goes down.
Yeah, or Toca Madera.
No, but then the guy got his ass beat,
Yeah.
So he had like one magnificent smack.
and then they all fucked him up.
Well, he kind of tripped and fell into them, and then they grabbed him, and
Oh.
then they started acting real tough because the guy's belly's down on the floor, and they're just smashing him.
But
into the
where's
ground.
security?
No,
I'm
come
not
on.
kidding. Fuck the whole like
They
half-court
gotta let
shot
the
for a car.
steam out first before security gets in.
Yeah. it's
They
too-
gotta stop the half-court shot for a Kia, and you come out and fist fight, and whoever wins gets a fucking
Yeah.
Kia.
I
Oh
love
my
that
God.
idea.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But that's where we're headed.
Fight your way into a Kia.
So does anyone care about actual athletes and stuff
No,
anymore?
so like to answer your question, I think two things that I'm kind of paying attention to. One, you guys talked about a little bit, but it's like just the new sports regulations around college athletes.
Yeah.
They're influencers in many ways. They're content creators. So
Yeah.
what you're going to see when money enters that space and they're monetized and they're motivated to make content, you're going to see the sports star change. And I think it's going to impact everything from draft picks to who's really well known to brand deals to shoe deals to everything else. That's something that NIL kind of movement is kind of already happening, the ripple effect.
Yeah.
I think the other thing is more a slow burn because license deals are really long for sports, but most people are watching clips and highlights and packages online now. They're watching them little clip shows on TikTok or on Twitter or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And you're starting to see a little bit of sports rights go to Amazon and the like.
Barstool.
Barstool with MLB.
Yeah.
Like you're starting to see all these interesting things, coverage that's like becoming more official that's happening for the sports, like in the Barstool scenario. So I think over the next 2 years, we're going to see licenses go to the tech world and to digital world, and digital sports announcers and analysts and kind of people who have this big base on YouTube and the like are now going to emerge again.
I mean, Kevin Hart and Snoop Dogg doing the
Amazing.
Why was that on streaming? Some weird. You couldn't even find.
I mean,
The
the
horse,
Saudi
the horse
Arabia,
crip walk was the best thing I've seen.
yeah.
the Saudi
How many
Arabia
impressions
clip.
did that get?
How-
On fucking horseback, whatever the hell
How
it
about
is.
the
Unbelievable.
Saudi Arabia comment? That was incredible.
Which
Did
one?
you see that?
No.
So Saudi Arabia was doing the intro, or they were doing the opening ceremony.
I could already guess what I was
And-
going to say.
Snoop's like, I ain't saying shit. I'm not saying anything. Kevin Hart's like, are they out there? I'm not looking. I'm not looking. Salute. They just like made a kind of a mockery of like, we can't go against the kingdom.
Yeah.
And it was the funniest clip. It's literally has tens of millions of views.
See, and like who else would ever be talking about the horse thing or the Saudi Arabia opening ceremony had it not been for that?
Yeah, exactly.
Like that has to be the new way to digest sport. I just feel like, I don't know, it seems to me like in like the same way Twitch streaming and stuff like that, like it seems like in like 5 years, you'll watch sports through your favorite person.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
You can, and there's like 100 ways to watch it.
Yeah.
So I think the NFL toyed with it with the Nickelodeon kind of
With
coverage.
the award shows and stuff like that.
Well, I think they aired Thursday Night Football
Oh,
on
yeah.
Nickelodeon, right?
Yeah, they did.
So I think like everything gets kind of distributed, and if you listen to another language, you like rap, you like country, your favorite guy or girl is commentating on the.
I agree.
And I think
like there's a cliched kind of statement, which is like people are distribution channels, or you know, a talent can be a channel. That's what you're describing is that, and it's happening.
I have two things. One, I think Jake or Logan Paul should be a tight end in the NFL, and it's like they catch a ball in the middle of a game with the biggest
Pandemonium.
Pandemonium.
No.
And
Just one
there's a
play,
quarterback.
you're saying.
No, they should go and train and be
that
in
should
the
be their
thing.
next thing. Like I'm gonna.
I think these guys are going to quadruple down on fighting. I think they're going to redefine the sport of boxing.
Wow.
So you think they just love fighting?
Yeah, I think they.
Do they just go like on a weekend? They're at Saddle Ranch, just beat up everyone. Is that what's going on?
Depends how many cocktails you get. Depends who's paying for cocktails.
Yeah.
I think they're impacting boxing as a sport more than anyone has in a decade. And
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
definitely.
Boxing was broken.
it was broken. I think boxing's
that
always
dead?
been.
What?
What's
Broken means dead, right?
Yeah, boxing was after
like
Floyd.
the
It was
industry
dead.
of boxing is so.
It's also
fucked.
always been
Yeah.
about showmanship, and they're fucking outstanding.
But the
showmans.
weird world of like promoters isolated in these weird, like no other sport is like that. Where like this promoter and his team has to agree with this one, and they all hate each other, and they all want to just fight people in their own thing.
You're gonna see these guys get into the business of boxing next.
Yeah.
I'll just say that.
That's
yeah.
great.
So they should just team up with Dana White once and for all and just own the whole thing.
Did they have beef or no?
Yeah. Well, no, not
They
with
should fight
Logan,
Dana
but
White.
Jake and Dana
They
White.
should fight Dana
Fight
White.
Joe Rogan. Fucking anti-vaxxer.
Yeah, there you go.
Fuck that guy.
Maybe
Kick 'em.
Jake Paul.
Uninterned.
Jake Paul should fight, or Jake or Logan
You got
should
tired
fight.
of the Spotify wall.
Yeah.
should fight Dana White and Joe Rogan. Two of them versus one of them.
That's fair.
That's a good fight.
You wouldn't know the difference anyway.
No, it'd be like, all right, Dana White's
The
down.
two bald
No,
guys.
Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
And so I have a movie pitch. Since you're an agent, I want to pitch a movie.
Great.
I thought about this yesterday.
I have an
I
agent
can't
question
wait.
too after you.
All right, so here's the movie.
So we can get
This
on
is-
screen? Is this what's
No,
going
no,
on?
this is- no,
Jazz gonna
This is
green
a
light?
pitch- this
we
is a
got
pitch
him
session.
here.
I'm gonna green light one idea.
Okay, yeah, it's Shark Tank. All right, here's good. Mine's a movie. I don't want to be in it though.
Oh.
Yeah, I just want to be I can be a production company.
Okay.
Hello,
Oh, yeah.
hello, D.
Hello,
Does that make it
Moon.
more or less saleable?
Hello, Moonshine.
Well, you hear the idea. 4 best friends, guys, grow up together, live their life, they get
Entourage.
jobs. Shut up. Don't interrupt the pitch.
One's a movie star.
Okay.
You're
okay.
fucking with this flow, dude.
Four guys. 4 guys grow up together. Typical group of 4 guy friends. 10 years after they graduate college, the manly guy with who was like the cool college kid is gay.
Realizes he's
He
gay.
realizes he's gay and becomes gay. Finds the love of his life.
Okay.
Decides to get married.
Okay.
There's a bachelor party.
Oh.
Yes.
and like the awkwardness of.
Yes, I want to know what that bachelor party is. Here's a gay man who has
I don't think you need to know. You can ask Tim. What's going on?
Three straight friends.
Tim, how's that bachelor
But
party?
I want to see The Hangover meets a bachelor party, like the mod. Because like
The Hangover meets Magic Mike.
Yeah, exactly. What does the modern bachelor party look like? Because you're gonna as these kids grow up, they're gonna have friends that are every different walk of life.
Yeah.
And I think for like our age group, it's so comedic because it's like we didn't get to experience.
Yeah.
If you're gay, you only had gay friends, and if you were straight, you only had straight friends. And now today, straight people have gay friends, gay people have straight friends, and it's just a different dynamic. And I would love. I mean, you need the right comedians to kind of figure the.
Yeah.
Do you want the friend answer, or like if you just pitch this to me?
No, I want the agent answer.
The agent answer is go write it.
Yeah.
The agent answer is go write it because we sell things that are written. But I'll tell you.
I'd like you to say that to Reese Witherspoon.
Here's the other answer. I know 2 great comedians that could write that with you, and that would be a fucking good idea.
Yeah, it's a good idea. It's clever.
Tim, what do you think?
Imagine you sold a script.
Great idea.
Yeah.
You think it's a great idea?
Hello, D.
It's a good
I'll
premise.
sell my production company for $23 million.
Goodbye, D.
I was at a bachelor
you
party.
sell it, you're gone.
I was at a bachelor party this weekend. Heterosexual wedding.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just males dancing with each other.
Okay, so we already have the first scene.
The world's ready.
The world is ready.
That could work. You might need a writer.
Literally just males dancing with each other.
No, but for real, I know who would write that.
Yeah. Do I think I know who it is?
You might.
Okay.
Okay, here's my question, Jad, for agent advice. Because I think this applies to us and then it applies to a lot of our listeners. What's up with the world of podcasting, like in all this? Like, I think you probably heard our take on Call Her Daddy. We feel like she was underpaid.
I think you're right.
And also, that makes me also wonder if, I don't know the deal terms, but the Joe Rogan deal, being $100 million, that also feels wildly underpaid. What's the way to think about that? Like, is the way to think about it to try to get to a deal like that? Like, because there's going to be all these acquisitions, or
without going on like a giant tangent, here's kind of what I would say. I think the podcasting world touches on some of the things we talked about with brands and advertisers and audience.
Yeah.
If you can build a big audience in podcasting, they tend to be wildly loyal.
Mm-hmm.
They tend to listen consistently into the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
They tend to care about the things that are endorsed by the people that they listen to.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this kind of massive audience building and audience retention, and that's happening. And at the same time, radio has been this giant multi-billion dollar business that you're going to see every dollar in radio just shift over to essentially podcasting.
Yeah.
And so you're seeing now the money start to show up and reflect that. So if you have X number of listeners that are in this demo that, these 10 brands care about immensely, they're going to shift their money spends to that. And so you're seeing kind of 2 types of deals, I think. You're seeing deals with talent that are more limited in nature, where they're like, so-and-so is going to do 12 episodes and it's an A-list talent doing 12 episodes of some cool podcast. And the networks are paying a premium to have that person exclusively so they can market it and say, we have Demi Lovato on our, on our platform. I think the other thing that you're seeing is podcasts like Last Podcast on the Left, for instance, or Call Her Daddy, or any of these other ones that launched organically, started build a fuckload of listeners.
Yeah.
And then 2 or 3 years later, they did the big deal.
Yeah.
And you're going to see, I think, a ton of those this year. Our agency has done hundreds of millions of dollars worth of podcasting deals this year. And it's because the audience sizes are so big and so well defined.
If Call Her Daddy is really that big, that should be $200 million.
Yeah.
Like, it just, doesn't that seem wildly undervalued? When you look at something like a Reese
sometimes you guys
Witherspoon.
don't kind of anticipate though the type of deals they are.
Yeah.
Because these aren't necessarily like full buyout deals. There might be like 3-year licenses.
I think hers is 3 years.
So 3-year, Rogan's is like 3 or 4 year license. So like these are deals that they're basically getting that money amortized over a 4-year window to do it with them. They're going to leave. They're going to still have their audience. They might still own that show, the channel, the RSS feed, all the things associated with it, and then go do another deal. You have to also keep in mind that these shows tour, they sell merch, they can launch products, they can do integrations, they could do a lot of things besides just that one revenue stream.
But like the Call Her Daddy deal, in my opinion, like I've listened to her episodes, that shtick eventually dies out. She gets older. she's no longer the single
But
girl.
what if she's like the amazing, like, it's the
Transitions.
mommy, it's the best mom podcast about like the realities of raising kids. Like my kids shit all over the floor this morning. I'm fucking mom.
can-
So you think she can transition
Kim
from like?
Kardashian transition. No one ever thought she'd be bigger now than she was 10 years ago.
I just think her audience is so.
No, her audience is insane. I'm not questioning that.
And also, like, how
my
could
point
you
is
make
her
other-
stick gets old
Yeah.
if you actually
Call her
graduate.
mommy.
Here's the
Call
thing.
her mommy.
Here's the thing. You
Call her
don't have
grandmommy.
to guess that now. In 2.5 years, when that deal's about up, people look at the numbers. They'll see what's happening. They'll see where it's trending and make that choice. I think when you look at like a guy like Rogan, I don't mean to make like a eye for eye kind of comparison, but like he's got like Larry King potential as far as just being a great interviewer for another 10 years.
Yeah.
And so that type of show has crazy legs. It can go forever.
I think Rogan will be interviewing with a relevant perspective till the day he dies almost.
He's
Yeah,
also
and I
got a
think-
specific audience that caters to him.
You can keep hunting elk
The
and
most
do whatever the hell
amazing
you're
thing
doing.
about Rogan is he interviews for the large portion irrelevant guests
Yeah.
and makes it
Yeah,
entertaining.
they're not hard to book.
Yeah.
And the
For
ones that
real.
are hard to
Hey,
book
what are you
wanna
doing
come
tonight?
on
You
when
want to
they
come
come
on my
I mean, I think
podcast?
that, like, a lot of them are like a lot of them are like his friends that are comedians.
Yeah.
That he's probably doing exactly that.
Even like some of those UFC people I see on there, like, you're just random UFC
But
fighter.
then it's Elon Musk,
Yeah.
and it's 10 his friends, and then Bernie Sanders.
Yeah,
and then,
Yeah, it's
He's
like
the-
for every 10, there's probably 2 relevant people.
Yeah.
Well, I was about to say he figured out a good cadence and a good rhythm
He
where
did.
he can have like kind of in between moments and these big kind of really well-known guests that spike viewership.
Yeah.
I also think the interesting thing about Rogan's content, and this is something that applies to like the digital creator content, is their shelf life. Like you can go and listen to an Elon Musk Rogan interview, even if it's 2 years old, and
10
still,
years, yeah.
it's going to be really interesting for different reasons. You might want to go back to it. If you're doing weekly sports content, that has no value in a month. So like the Call Her Daddy catalog is probably not as worthwhile as like the Joe Rogan catalog.
Interesting. No, that makes sense.
Okay. I feel pretty educated.
Yeah.
So now we know what we got to do. Get in on Dee's movie.
Get these movies.
That's what I learned from
I'm
today.
tagging you as the
Goodbye,
gay
D.
character.
I'm in.
D, what's your
it.
production company called?
I like Goodbye D.
Goodbye, D.
Hello
mean,
Sunshine, Goodbye
fact
D.
that Tim
because
didn't-
after this movie, I'm going to be canceled, so it'll be great.
Yeah, yeah.
approved this.
The fact that Tim approved it,
Yeah.
I think we're fine.
Yeah.
If Tim had shitted on it, I'd be a little nervous.
It's going to be edgy, Tim. There's going to be stuff that's going to be
I
sad,
think you should make Tim an executive producer with you.
so I can't get canceled.
Can't get canceled. Get some insight into
Is Tim
it.
gay? Is that why I
No,
won't
but
be
he's
canceled?
No, he's
but
pan.
he-
Oh, okay.
Pan
he's
means you're
also
down for
just
whatever.
a little more refined than you.
Okay.
Yeah. Plus, he can help you not get
I had
canceled.
lunch
He-
with Tim the other day. He's on fire.
What's he saying?
like in his love life, business.
Yeah.
I saw Tim's music content. It was fire.
Tim,
Yeah.
Tim
Doing
is
covers.
living.
Okay, let's
Just
hear it.
fucking
Let's hear
killing
it.
Tim
it.
is living.
Tim, can we get a quick rundown from you? We just got Jad.
Okay. Why are you on fire? What are you
We
doing?
can-
You having a lot of sex?
I want to hear what you're seeing in your industry.
Have you been going to Boosie with New Guy?
Yeah.
No, I am going to West Hollywood.
Okay.
And I'm going to all the clubs down there.
Okay, so what's going on,
So
Tim?
what's
Why
going
are you
on?
on
No, this
fire?
guy hit me up and he's like, "Hey,
I'm taking you to
where
lunch,
do I
you broke
go to?"
motherfucker.
For real.
He's like, "Where can I
Welcome
go
to
play
capitalism.
tennis?" He's like, "I have a date with a girl where I can go play tennis." And I was like, "Hey, there's a good court on La Cienega Olympic. Just call and book it." And then he had a date like the night before too.
Different.
And he was just like,
No, so
"I have
what
so
happened
much."
was somebody said, "You want to go hiking tomorrow?" I said, "Sure." And then she said, "Actually, do you want to play tennis?" And I was like, "Okay." And then I freaked out and I was like, "I'm going to be so bad." So then I texted another girl that I know who has a tennis court in her backyard. And I said,
Whoa.
Look at this
"Hey, can
guy.
we hang out tonight?
That
Can
sounds
we play
pretty
some tennis?"
capitalist.
You're a
Score in the
what?
backyard.
You're a
That was like one of
socialist
those
that has
complexes.
friends?
Yeah,
Oh my
complex.
God.
Yeah, it's called a compound.
Oh my God. You know someone with
You
a
have a tennis court in your
If
house
someone
in
ever
LA,
asked me to
you-
go on a date to play tennis, that would be a fucking hard pass.
Yeah.
That's gonna be a no for me, dog.
Yeah.
That's what I love about this. That's very like the LA socialists are like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me call my
They're
friend.
pretty
who has
well-to-do.
We're gonna go to Bel Air Crest and we're gonna play in her community.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
What
Wow.
community is
He went
this
to the
that they have
Malvern
tennis
Racquetball
courts?
Club, played tennis. You know,
Yeah.
I had lunch at Sparrow Cafe. called it a
Either
day.
way, like Tim's on fire. His love life is like just. It's just exploding.
What do you attribute?
Dynamic.
What do you attribute to that?
It's Hot Boy Summer.
Oh wow.
Yeah. everybody is like
Everyone's-
feeling the post-COVID. Like we got to get back out
We're
there.
post-COVID. I like that.
Yeah,
I mean,
okay.
I'm feeling
So no
it.
one cares about
We're not.
Delta?
We're post-COVID, not
Nobody cares about
post-Delta.
Delta.
Nobody cares about Delta.
we're Delta. We're Delta present.
So everyone's
So-
just hooking up.
All those comments that we need to feel bad for Tim because we need to get him a date, but it's all over. He's
All
on
right.
fire.
And
This
I'd like
guy.
to say, if you go back and listen to those, I did not ask for any of that.
I think you encouraged
I was
it.
accused. I was
Those were
accused of
unsolicited
it.
favors.
I think you leaned in. I think you magnified like, yeah, I haven't really had much success lately.
I didn't say that.
Yeah, I
even.
think you did.
I
was
think you
doing
did,
really well
Tim.
back
then.
I think that's really wrong.
Look at you now.
But look at you,
Private
just
tennis.
texting me about
Now.
tennis compounds.
Private
Yeah.
tennis and West Hollywood. He can pull from anywhere.
Oh, if you want to play, I'm really good now.
He's having a warm-up date
For real.
so that he's good at his real date.
Yeah.
Wow.
Exactly.
That's
No,
pretty,
literally, that's-
pretty advanced.
Tim asked me to play tennis, and I was like, "Bro, I can't play tennis tonight."
Yeah.
He's like,
You wanted to
"I'm
warm
trying
up.
to get better for this date."
Yeah. Auden stood me up, so I found someone else.
Wow. Okay. All right. Do we want to talk about a couple news topics?
Yeah, we can talk about one or two.
Okay. Does anyone have any of that liquid IV?
I mean, I
I'm
just
sweating my
lost.
tits off in here.
Yeah, I just lost 17 pounds during this episode of the podcast because
Oh my God.
on Sundays we have no air conditioning in
we
our
gotta,
building.
We gotta up the
you guys,
budget.
you guys fucked us.
Yeah. I agree because there's nothing.
We don't have water.
We don't
No
have a
water,
fan.
no liquid IV.
We don't have a fan. I don't know. We got to maybe up our ad budget and get some fans in here.
What we might have to do is give a few bucks to Jason to go to liquidiv.com, use the code group chat.
There you
get
go.
us 25% off some liquid IV.
There you go, Jason.
When I go home and collapse,
You'll wish you would have done it.
and then Jason has to pick me up
There
because
you
I'll
go.
be laid out in my lawn.
Could've
Jason
saved
doesn't
it.
have a paycheck.
Could have saved it with one little packet.
Yeah, one packet would have saved us.
These packets, I mean, I honestly use these things daily.
I do them daily now too.
We talk about it, but the actual amount of water that you need
Yeah.
is just absurd.
Yeah, I'm not willing to give up my full-time job to drink water all
That's
day.
it.
Or a full-time job to go to the bathroom.
That's what you have to do, literally. If you drink what they tell you you're supposed to drink, you have to give up everything, your family, and
Yes.
just slowly drink water and pee all day.
I saw a guy, he told me he was hydrated the other day. He hasn't left his house in 6 months.
No, he doesn't even have a house anymore. He just has a jug of water. But Liquid IV cures that. Get right to the point. Pour some Liquid IV in there. They have the one thing that I really love about Liquid IV is the flavors.
Yeah, it tastes good.
In all honesty, they taste incredible. They don't have that weird fake sweetener taste that a lot of these things have.
Yeah.
They do a really great job. So of course, they're one of our sponsors, and we have that discount. What do you do, D? liquidiv.com/group chat?
No, liquidiv.com. Use the code group chat.
No, silly me. I'm dehydrated. I can't think straight.
You're dying.
I'm dying.
I'm literally sweating today.
There you go. 25% off anything you order. Liquidiv.com, code group chat. Let's take a swig and get back into this episode. Okay, here's, I guess, the only thing we should talk about.
Topic jump.
Big topic jump. Okay, we went from playing tennis at private courts and Reese Witherspoon deals straight into the Taliban. So I haven't heard about the Taliban for quite some time now. I feel
Nostalgia's back, guys.
yeah, very 90s. I feel very lucky about that. But now we're talking about, we're pulling out of Afghanistan. We're like evacuating embassies. We're worried about the Afghan people that we've trained and what's going to happen to them. The Taliban is taking over.
So we pulled out of Afghanistan.
So that was a conscious decision by the Biden administration. Hey,
Trump
we need to
pulled
end
it.
this.
Trump is the
Okay.
first person that said we're bringing our troops back home. Everyone cheered it.
And
because-
Biden continued it.
and Biden just followed through.
So Trump had the May 1
deadline.
deadline, and then Biden elevated to August. But if you want to think back, it's a 20-year war post 9/11.
With your
So,
boy, everyone's favorite president, George Bush.
so
Were we talking about the Taliban? Just curious, because I don't remember. Late 90s also? Or was it really 9/11 and then who the hell are these guys?
was the Taliban existed in the 90s, obviously.
Yeah.
But post 9/11 is when the U.S. decided we need to intervene. So post 9/11, we're talking. It's a 20-year war. It's 20,000 plus American soldiers injured, 2,300 dead. I think 1.5 trillion to 2 trillion,
2 trillion.
spent. 2 trillion spent, and trying to stabilize the region. This is a country that has had war in over 200 years that no one has actually been able to win. the Soviets were at war with Afghanistan, and America actually armed the Mujahideen in the 90s.
Which sort of led to the
Taliban. And you can go back even 100 years before that. But the point is, how do we justify what we did?
By pulling out, you mean? Or by going in?
All of it.
Yeah. Well, it's an oil play, right?
No, there's just
no. It was a Bin Laden play.
It was a Bin Laden play. It was basically Taliban. Bin Laden was in Afghanistan and was basically calling the troops to do all the Al Qaeda stuff.
Yeah.
But then he wasn't there.
And then he ended up in Pakistan.
But I was under the impression, not to sound, maybe I'm out of line here, but that having a presence and sort of controlling in that region is just very rich in resources, and you also tamp down future attackers. So if you just maintain kind of your foot on the neck, you never allow anything to get too out of hand, and you control a very rich area in resources. And that's why we're there.
It wasn't the resources. It was basically to stop Al Qaeda and terrorism.
Okay.
Because Afghanistan doesn't have oil. It has like opium and like all these other things.
It has other natural
resources, but like it's a very complicated issue.
Yeah.
But there wasn't a real clear-cut answer.
I mean,
obviously the withdrawal isn't.
I think the what Anand's saying is that it was geopolitical reasons. So you don't have much U.S. military presence in the Middle East outside of Israel, where you're comfortably like positioned and have bases and dominance. There's a couple other areas, Jordan, Egypt, etc. But then I think it's also just the militarized industrial complex. I mean, it's been a decade of spending $2 trillion on different equipment, military personnel, transport,
it's good for business.
It's not bad for business for a lot of people involved, but it is kind of crazy to people make the Vietnam comparison all the time, which is like, if you're going to get into a place, you got to have a clear objective and be able to get out of a place.
Yeah.
But, in those two instances, like we got into a place, we were a little over our heads in a sense, geopolitically, circumstantially. And then you also pull out in an interesting time. And to be fair, I think the whole let's get out of Afghanistan started with Obama. He tried, but didn't come through with it, which the Democrats kind of derided him for, or at least Democratic voters.
Yeah.
And so it just seems like this has just been one of those plagued kind of nonstop fuck up kind of situations.
Yeah. I think it's actually a problem for George W. Bush, Barack Obama, Donald Trump, Biden.
Yeah.
Everyone takes
It also kills me, like, what were you doing there for 20 years that the moment you leave, they take over?
So
they're
I
not
was reading
training
about that.
or building or...
So I was reading about that. It was pretty much the U.S. military that kept that government in check. And I just cannot believe that they did not know the moment they left that this shit would happen.
Yeah, it's a failure. It's a failure on the Biden administration. There's no question.
Agreed.
So they clearly knew, because the way the articles I'm reading are nuts. Taliban is, for some of these regions, the fighters are just being like, the Taliban's going like, what's going to happen. All right, get the fuck out. They're just leaving.
Yeah.
Or the politicians have been bribed to leave. The president's gone. He left the goddamn country.
The videos are absolutely insane. They're releasing the Taliban prisoners. They're showing actual live footage from the airport trying to get U.S. citizens out of Kabul in military planes. It's like they're running to the plane to try to get out of there because the Taliban has taken over. And it's an utter failure on so many levels, from government. Like, it doesn't even matter about your politics. It's really like human life. Like, we just didn't anticipate, like, the moment you leave, this is what's going to happen. Like, you don't have intelligence going on. Like,
of course they had it. I think here's what
and honestly, Biden is pretty arrogant about it. He was like, I bear zero responsibility. He said that.
I think Western politics forget, and as someone who was born in the Middle East and kind of paid a lot of attention to it, they forget that all the boundaries that are drawn across the Middle East are totally arbitrary bullshit.
Yeah.
And even though they've been drawn on the map for 50 years, that they're still bullshit. And so when a place like Afghanistan isn't ruled with someone's iron fist, be it a dictator from within or a nation from outside, the place is tribalized and goes fucking crazy. And there's all these different agendas and factions and groups and the Taliban and the political unit that was there before, and neighboring Hezbollah and all these different players. And then it just becomes a crazy cauldron, right like it was beforehand. Because
instantly. Like
it was 2 weeks. It was 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That's insane.
The country literally cratered in 2 weeks.
So the worst part about it is that they said that it would take 90 days for Kabul to fall, and it took like 48 hours.
And so I started, just because I'm definitely not an expert on this topic, so I just wanted to read. So I ended up on NPR. They said 4 reasons the Taliban takeover in Afghanistan matters to the world. Number 1, Afghanistan is now a human rights problem. So obviously, everything from denying education women, carrying out public executions, persecuting minorities such as Shiites, and destroying priceless ancient, all kinds of things, right? So there's that piece. Number 2, a Taliban regime could again become a safe haven for extremists, because there's in that region, they're all, it borders Pakistan and Iran. So you could kind of see where that could lead. And then a Taliban ruled Afghanistan might destabilize Pakistan, that's a whole nother set of issues that they now have to deal with. And then this is what I was actually looking for. And I didn't think it would be there, but it was there. China could gain a foothold in the region.
Yeah.
China is looking to acknowledge the Taliban's presence as like a formal government.
Oh, no.
The only country besides Iran and Russia that is willing to do so. Which I was thinking I was being conspiracy theorist.
Yeah.
That there's China somewhere involved in this, and then of course, this is like Taliban sees China as a source of international legitimacy, a potential economic supporter, and a means of influence over Pakistan.
And that is totally unsurprising.
That's so scary, though.
That's totally unsurprising.
They're playing fucking chess all day.
If you've spent any time in the Middle East for the last 25 years, anytime you're in the Middle East, they're much more open and receptive to Russian politics and influence than Western and American politics and influence. And if you hear the way they speak about Western imperialism versus, Russia, who's been kind of an economic partner to them, they hate many elements of the Western political kind of establishment and are totally down with making money with fucking Russians.
Yeah.
Simple.
Yeah.
They're like, let's do more of that. And China wants to do that.
And China's like, you know what?
Let's get
We're
in.
now really rich, so we'll help you too.
I think it's like just an absolute reality that when you live in America, you think only American interests matter.
Yeah.
There's so much of the world that doesn't give a shit about America.
Yeah.
So China
actually hates it.
Yes.
And everything we stand for.
And China can work with Africa, work with the Middle East, and do a ton of business and further their interests without any.
Yeah, they're like, have you guys seen TikTok? That was us.
Yeah. You know why everyone's dancing?
Instagram?
ByteDance,
that was
baby.
them. You choose.
You choose. They overthrown an election. We just make people happy.
Love it. Come on over. Come on over to
Choice
death
is
row.
clear.
Yeah.
Come to death row.
I mean, it's wild. I don't know much. And what's funny is our friend Michael Katz posted, it's amazing how everyone became from vaccine expert to
Middle East expert.
Yeah, Middle East expert overnight.
Yeah.
Military Middle East expert overnight.
I actually asked Tariq, our good friend who's Afghan, and he's going to come on the pod and explain the whole
he was
situation.
there.
He was there.
He has the
and he told me
he was actually from
he
there?
was literally
Yes.
on Zoom with the ambassador. He sent me a picture and was like, hey, I asked him, was like, can you educate me? And he's like, I'm on Zoom with the ambassador, and he sent me a picture. He's like, do you mind if
Oh
I
my
call
God.
you later?
Like, no, I need to talk now.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's actually, just like one final thought for me anyway. It's shocking how little we hear about China's impact on other parts of the world. And you bring up Africa, parts of the Middle East. Like, they are their BFF in a lot of those places. And we don't think about that. We don't talk about it. But when you go to those places, you see their products.
Oh, yeah.
You see their
Presence,
cultural presence. And I think it's also impacting a lot of parts of South America as well that are starting to be emerging markets in Brazil and Argentina and places like that.
Crazy.
Well,
Scary.
shit. Okay, well, there we go. So the good news is we just tell you how to make it in Hollywood.
Yeah.
The bad news is you got about 10 years to do it.
You better get
Clock
that
is
bag.
ticking. Urgency is very good for success.
So I want to end with one final. I got a DM. I cannot mention who.
Okay.
Because he or she said, please keep me anonymous.
Okay.
But worked at Uber. The reasons Ubers are so expensive is because drivers can now negotiate ride prices up to 5x the quoted price you see on the app. What drivers do is team up in the Uber lot, refuse rides like a pseudo union.
Wow.
They all agree to charge 3 to 5x the quoted price to make extra money. The AB5 law in California is mostly to blame for this. However, if a driver ever calls you to ask where you're going, which this always happens to me at the airport, they're screening your ride because they don't want short trips. In response, tell them you work for Uber Corporate and ride screening is illegal. I'm going to tell everyone that I work for Uber Corporate.
I mean, how have they been able to keep that so secret?
Yeah.
How do we not know that that's what's
Well,
happening?
now we know. And now everybody knows.
When does Lyft just not allow this negotiation of price and just take over?
I mean,
Yeah.
I get giving the riders the power on to some extent, but like, fuck, this is like,
To team up in a parking lot and say, this is what we're going to do.
yeah,
That seems easy to disrupt, though, to Jad's point. Give Lyft drivers a little bump,
yeah,
but at least you know what you're getting.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter where you're going or where you work at corporate.
Uber has become unusable. It's like yellow cab at this point.
yeah. It's too expensive. You can't go anywhere. I'm not spending.
And it's kind of inconvenient.
Yeah, because Anna was making fun of me for driving to the airport. I'm like, okay, well, I have $1,400 like you do to go to the airport.
True. He's like, well,
Oh, you go to
from
the
where I
LAX?
live.
That's $600.
Yeah, it's true. Okay, well, there you have it. There's a little secret, another secret.
Yeah.
So now you know how to make it in Hollywood,
Yeah.
who our biggest global threat is, and also how to get a ride home from the airport at a reasonable price. Uber Corporate. Do we have any shout outs?
No shout outs.
I don't have any.
Okay, hell of an episode. Jad, thank you, man.
Thank
I
you guys for having me.
appreciate-
I always love coming.
Yeah, we really love anytime we dabble in your world and we get it, maybe a little off base, you always kind of nudge us back.
You guys have amazing instincts.
We
Except
appreciate
for
it.
Goodbye D.
That movie sounds whack.
No, the movie's a hit. You're just old.
The number one moviegoer ain't going.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm
I'm
not.
the theater
bad
guy.
sign.
I will not do that.
I'm the guy that's showing them
Early
to go.
adopter.
No, I'm doing a deal with Netflix. They're buying me out, and we're going all in.
Wow.
Futures.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will not have a boat called back end. My boat will be front end.
Buy out.
Advance. Advance on the back of the
It's
boat.
advanced.
Get cash guarantee.
It's a little smaller boat, but it's advanced.
That's good. We should do a Photoshop of the different boats and how you played the
I have a
deal.
Based
little
on your
diggy. I have a
choices?
diggy.
Yeah.
I have a little diggy advanced. It's like a bumper sticker.
Yeah. Okay, good stuff. Thank you, Jad. Thank you, guys. We will see you on Tuesday. Bye-bye.